Welcome to the Nutrition Mission Podcast.
This is where we're going to share information about nutrition, have insights into your own personal needs, as well as product information, as well as other information. You've got to be part of this nutrition mission.
This is the official Clark's Nutrition and Natural Foods Market podcast. And we've been helping people live better lives since 1972. We're on a nutrition mission. Join us.
This is Starkie. Welcome again to another Nutrition Mission podcast here at Clark's Nutrition and Natural Foods Market. So check it out. You go to you go to El Pollo Loco, which is a chicken establishment, right? Now all of a sudden they got vegan protein, right? So then you head over to like Chipotle. It's like your choice of protein. So you got chicken, you got beef, you got pork, then you got like tofu, and then you got like whatever else they've come up for the hour, right? So then every time you turn around, you go to Thanksgiving. It's like, hey, how would you like some plant-based ham? What do we call this stuff? Plant-based ham-style roast. How would you like some plant-based ham-style roast? It's like, what is that, right? So literally, when it comes to protein, there's like it's kind of like a fun little thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a little paranoia in this little thing, so we're going to talk a little bit about it. But so here's what's happening in the world of protein. Ever since I was a kid in the 70s, I've been told, you know what? Your beef sources and your chicken sources, they're going to go away someday, and you're not going to have any of those because there's going to be a worldwide shortage of all these things. Well, it's really weird in the last couple of years with all the different craziness that's gone on with pandemics, epidemics, whatever you want to call them. We actually started seeing some shortage moments, right? Not saying that we haven't seen those before, like in the 80s and the 90s, when I was a kid in the 70s and the 60s and things of that nature. But I'm telling you right now, your protein choices are getting kind of weird. And it's getting changed. And it's going to change around a little bit. All right? You might like, I don't know, next Thanksgiving be ham-based, or plant-based ham-style roast or whatever the case might be. But I want to kind of lay a little foundation and talk a little bit about maybe where some of the craziness of this came from. First of all, without a question, World War II was the moment when we actually started partitioning foods. What does it mean to partition foods? We actually take like milk products, right? And we make cheese. And obviously we've made cheese for centuries. And basically what you do is you take milk and you let it sit out, and the cheese, which is casein, floats to the top. They take cheesecloth, which basically, for lack of better terms, is like a cotton cloth that just strains it off, something like a pillowcase or something. You take it off, and all the stuff that gets left behind is what is known as whey. So for years, of course, we know as whey protein as being like the ultimate thing for building muscle. For years, what they did is they basically put this stuff in drums, put it behind a truck, and sprayed it on the road to keep the dirt from flying everywhere, right? So it's like now all of a sudden we like figure out, oh my gosh, there's something in there that's excellent not only for the immune system, also for building bodies and things of that nature. Let's extract it out. So we extract out the whey. And that literally comes on the market like in the 1990s. It took that long to get it on the market. And so obviously the rest of the glucose or the sugars or sucrose or lactose that's left with it gets sent down the factory, right? So one thing that's happened is we're seeing the partition of foods. Once again, let's go back to the World War II moment. We actually had a lady that worked with us. And what her job was to separate eggs. Okay? Hand crack an egg, separate the yolk from the white. Because the whites were actually used in cooking. It helped to like make cakes and make them fluffy and all these other different things. Well, ironically speaking, as World War II would be, there was food rationing that went on. So we rationed foods, and that's when margarines came on the market. People were basically eating Crisco with food dye in it and just thinking it was the same thing as butter. It's not, by the way. It's bad for you. It causes heart disease. Don't do it, okay? All right. In that moment, though, we have other countries. You take idiots. Take idiots like Hitler. He's over there like going, you know what? Basically, the guy's bankrupt. So what he was doing is he's basically trying to find a food source to feed his army. So he comes up with powdered peanut protein. All right, how would you like to be in his army and like for lunch, you just get powdered peanut protein? It doesn't even taste like a peanut. It's just like this peanut flour that you get. So ultimately what happens is everyone's trying to find these protein sources cheaply that will help to sustain life, right? All right. So let's just go through some trends. Here come the 60s and the 70s. It's the flower children generation. So these guys come in and it's like, hey, we're hippies. We don't like to hurt the environment. We don't like to do these things. And by the way, that mantra is continuing largely better than ever before because what's happening is people are looking for sustainable protein sources. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. So what happens is this, soybeans become the answer. So soy protein hits the market. Oh my gosh, we were all eating soy protein. We all walked around like with a pregnant belly because we couldn't digest it. We're taking enzymes and everything we get our hands on, so we're just chowing it down. Some people, by the way, about 15% of the United States Americans can't digest soy protein. I happen to be one of them. So for me, that protein's of no value, okay? So ultimately what happens is it kind of starts this whole soy craze. Okay, hey, the Japanese use it, the Chinese use it. They use fermented soy products. It's a little bit different, guys. Fermented soy products are more digestible. The body can digest them efficiently. The other thing we find out about soy protein is this. It actually has an anti-growth factor in it. Recent research actually says, it does seem to support muscle tissue, but there's some anti-growth factors in there. Might be for a positive reason as well, too. All right, so then what came on the market in the late 70s was pea protein, Canadian field pea protein. Great for like helping the body with amino acid balance, things of that nature. It ends up being a pretty decent alternative. Of course, nowadays what they do is they come out with what they call plant proteins and then mix all these things together because we know that a lot of these proteins from hemp sources as well as from pea sources are incomplete, so you got to add them together to get them to work. All right, so then let's talk about what's trending. All right, so here's some cool stuff on the horizon. Like I said, a lot of it has to do with panic because people are afraid someday as the world's population continues to grow, we're not going to have enough protein, all right, to sustain the world. So these people are on the quest to come up with these new types of protein compounds. You're going to like some of these things, okay? So first of all, novel protein sources like pea proteins and soy proteins. Obviously, one of the things about that, environmentally friendly to some degree. By the way, there's a lot of waste products. I'm not going to get into that, but those ultimately end up having what we call like a great source of protein at a decent moment. Now, future meats. You ready for this? Future meats are going to be made out of a couple different things. First of all, we currently have chicken breasts that literally have been made from cell-based replication. What does that mean? That means to be cloned. So they've got chicken breasts where they've just taken the cells, cloned the cells, and made it. Here's the problem that we're seeing right now. Currently, it's at $7.70 a pound. It was $15 a pound. The goal, obviously, is to keep mass producing this so you can sell proteins literally at a cheap price. Fermented foods. I brought one with me. This is fun. This stuff tastes amazing. This stuff is called corn. And so when you read the label, it's 88% mycoprotein. What is mycoprotein? It's from a mushroom. It's mushroom protein. It's got some egg whites and some stuff with it. Pretty cool stuff, though. Tastes amazing. Seems to digest well. And it actually ends up being like a cool moment. Mycoproteins, all right? Obviously, here's another thing that's hit the market. This one is Beyond Meat. If you haven't tried Beyond Meat, you got to try it. Very critical. This stuff tastes amazing. So once again, this is pea protein. And this also ends up having some rice flour in it as well, too, making a complete protein. And what they do is they tweak some stuff. They actually added some derived compounds. They derived it from meat sources. They tweaked it, and then they synthetically produce it so it kind of tastes a little bit more like meat. Kind of interesting. Yeah, it's vegetarian-based. It's ecological. All the cool things. But let's face it, to get to the taste, they kind of had to tweak some stuff, all right? So then let's talk about this. Let's talk about better priced cultivated meats. Okay, so here's a couple of things that are coming out. What we're going to do is we're going to take some of these substances, we're going to blend them, and basically put them together. One of the number one things that everyone knows in this manufactured protein world is this. In order to get this into everybody's system, you got to hit the kids. So they're coming out with all different types of different things like chicken McNuggets, which aren't chicken, or these different corn McNuggets and things of that nature. So for convenience, it's going to be a huge driving factor where people are going to get to it. Finally, the last part is this. They are trying to make protein from air. From air. Are you kidding me? So here's the deal. Every time you breathe in, you get 80% nitrogen, you get 19% oxygen or 18% oxygen, and then 2% carbon dioxide, all right? So what they're doing is they're trying to trap the nitrogen, which is the protein component, from air, and they're trying to synthesize proteins from air. You might be eating air protein someday soon, all right? That said, kind of gives us a little update. I think it's fun to just, like, do what I call updates, trends that will continue. I don't think these trends are going away. It's predicted that these types of proteins are going to probably not only double in sales in the next 20 years, no, not double, 5-fold. Its chances of finding you at the fast food restaurants in the aisles at the typical grocery store and anywhere else is really going to be common. Here's my thoughts. Be careful. Read the labels. It's not all 100% perfect just because it came from plant or from air or whatever the case might be. Make sure your body can digest it and make it happen. All right. Hopefully that'll help you with some of the quandaries that are going on. Next time you go and sit down and get a tofurkey thinking that you're going to get a turkey. Chances are it might be a little different. All right, so let's go on to something different. I think this is critical. This just came up literally 2 weeks ago. We've talked about vitamin D before in the past. We've talked about omega-3s like almost every episode, right? The reason why omega-3s are critical is because not only do they help with the nervous function, they help with mental acuity, they help with so many other different things, and our diets are typically lacking it. Currently, we can't make it from air, as far as I know. So that said, you're going to have to consume it. You're going to have to get it in the diet. It's going to have to be flax. It's going to have to be hemp. It's going to have to be fish. If you don't like fish, you're going to have to eat algae. Okay, eat some seaweeds. Do the deal to get those omega-3s. By the way, spirulina, great source too. So all of a sudden, this study comes out. It says this. Check it out. Vitamin D, by the way, I should actually read you the study, the name of the study, so you just know what it is. It's called the VITAL Study. It's from the National Institute of Health. It involved about 26,000, or 26.8 thousand individuals, right? Age 55 plus. They basically did an observational study. They followed these individuals for about 5.3 years. And here's what they came out with this. They said, look, check it out. Here's what we know. People that had adequate vitamin D, mind you, don't forget the adequate vitamin D when it came to the whole COVID thing was critical for helping with prevention as well as preventing from you getting worse and things of that nature. Now all of a sudden we find out about something else about vitamin D, all right? And so here's the deal. We actually find this. Individuals that have rheumatoid arthritis, people that have autoimmune thyroid, people that end up having like psoriasis, things of that nature, their susceptibility obviously increases. And we theorized this for years, but now all of a sudden they do a research and they said this. Here's the deal. In one portion or one arm of the study, they looked at some individuals, 123 and 155, and they put them into these little placebo. Here's people that used vitamin D. Here's people that didn't. Had literally a 22% reduction in disease, autoimmune diseases, okay? So short duration when it came to omega-3s, about a 10% for like a very short duration uses. When it came to long duration, about 22%. So here's what became very significant. Using omega-3s and vitamin Ds. By the way, it had to be about 2,000 IUs of vitamin D a day. And it really wasn't a lot of omega-3. I expected them to use a lot. They only use like 1,000 milligrams. You could do that with krill. You could do that with the typical omega-3s. But here's the conclusions. Vitamin D plus omega-3 on long-term inflammatory situations reduce inflammation significantly and by 39% reduce the susceptibility of autoimmune diseases. And so that's people that either have them or whether they progressed or got worse, or people that could potentially have gotten them. All these different things kind of thrown together. So the bottom line is this. Still today, when you go to the doctor, you're probably going to get checked for vitamin D levels. It's for a reason. In this study, 2,000 IUs a day, the safe upper tolerable limit for vitamin D is 4,000. 2,000 completely safe, all right? The RDA used to be like 400. Now it's up to 800. I heard it's going to go to 1,000. So we're actually seeing that increase slowly but surely because we're actually seeing that that's a significant factor. Remember, say, oh, I get plenty of vitamin D. I go out in the sun. Hey, check it out. If you put on sunscreen, you're not getting vitamin D. The body can't synthesize it. You're probably going to have to use supplement form or eat liver, but nobody eats liver. So come on. Those days of eating organ meats don't happen. So real quick update. Vitamin D, 2,000, 1,000 milligrams of omega-3s together helps to reduce the susceptibility. This is a decent study. National Institute of Health, one of the most incredible studies. So think about that next time you're eating your plant-based or air-based protein. You still want to make sure that you're getting your vitamin D and things of that nature that make a difference from animal sources. We still need animals. Once again, plant source, different types of foods, obviously are critical for health. Don't forget to focus on those. Fruits, vegetables, whole grains, things of that nature, they still have incredible purposes. Okay, so I just thought it's kind of fun to look at how protein's going. At the same time, don't forget to remember that there's going to be a balance between animal and vegetable proteins as well as animal source of vitamins that you can get them. If you're not that person, you definitely want to supplement. Here's a great illustration as to why. All right, thanks again for listening to Nutrition Mission, brought to you by Clark's Nutrition Natural Foods Market. This is Starkie Sowers, thanking you for your time.
Thank you guys for joining us today on our Mission Nutrition podcast, the official Clark's Nutrition and Natural Foods Market podcast. We've got another exciting episode for you next week, so be sure to review, subscribe, follow us, and stay connected.
Absolutely, be part of it. We've got so much we're going to share with you. It's going to be an amazing ride.
We'll see you next time.